All right, everybody, welcome back. We're now at the motor here of the Locomotive. There's not much you want to do in here simply because this thing is vintage and old if you have one, and getting parts is going to be hard. So looking at the electronics, everything looks good. You know, if you have to clean it off with a little bit of isopropyl alcohol and a Q-tip. But the main thing we want to do is release this pinion gear here and motor so we can get back here, and we're just doing a lot of cleaning, a lot of touching up, and then we'll go into the finite oiling of where the oil has to go. But the first thing we're going to do is release this, and it's really simple. I'm just going to take these screws, and they shouldn't be in too tight. If they are, don't set them back tight when you put it back together. And that should drop out. There we go. And just keep the gear and everything together. If you see there how gunky it is over the years, we're gonna have to clean that up. The motor will drop out the back of the case here. And as you can see, we got a little bit of oil in there from the years of service. So we're just gonna wanna wipe everything down with some alcohol wipes and just clean up all this metal around here. Be careful not to break any connections. All right, we got everything cleaned to the best of our ability. Got most of the old grease out of there, cleaned everything up, wiped it down. Now we're gonna go into reassembling everything. So this little plastic spur gear here slides off. We cleaned it really good and just lubricated that shaft with a dot of this 106 Labelle lube. So this gear is not exposed on that shaft because basically the shaft is in the middle of the gears. So it's less chance of dust and dirt getting in there because this will attract dust and dirt. So it's kind of something you want to use in an enclosed area like this. But we're going to go ahead and reassemble this and set it all back down and get the motor secured again. All right, once you got it back together, you're going to just want to go ahead and spin it with your thumb and make sure everything's running free and nothing's binding up. Next thing you're gonna wanna do is just add a dot of that 106 grease on the pinion right here. Just a dot. That's really all that's needed, is just a dot, and just go ahead and run it around. And that'll go through the whole drivetrain. You can run it forward and back, just like that, and make sure it gets all around because it is gonna get on the gears and everything. And you only need a tiny, tiny little bit. As you can see there, it's making a little web when it spins, so it's lubricating everything. All right, the next thing you're gonna wanna do is get some other grease here, and we'll show you this 107 synthetic lube, and we're gonna wanna go around and lubricate all of the axles. If you see down in there, we're gonna wanna get on each one of these axles a drop, a drop, a drop. You're gonna wanna put a drop here wherever you see any type of armatures or bearings. You put a drop in there. You can put a drop behind each wheel there, a drop on this, a drop on this, and a drop behind that pinion gear back there. And that's really all you wanna do. All right, everybody, so we pretty much finished lubing up and doing some maintenance on this Locomotive Lionel engine here. We'll go over exactly where we lubricated and what we lubricated. So the 106 grease we used on all the cog wheels. Just a dot on the brass gears here, and then we did a dot on each one of these big gears down here, and we spun it and rotated it through, and that's it for that. This 107 lube, we added a dot behind the pinion gear here on the motor. We added a dot in here. Flip it around. We added a dot here and a dot here. And then in between each axle here, and inside as well. Down there and down there on the actual axle shaft itself. As far as the contactors here, we wiped them off, made sure they were clean. And we use this Easy Lube conductive contact lube. And we put a dot on each side of these rollers here and rotated them. Then we went around and we looked at everything and made sure there was no excess oil anywhere. Nothing that can get on the circuit board. And what we're gonna do now is put a piece of electric tape over this and over this like it was inside the locomotive. And I believe that's so that it doesn't ground out on this case in there. All right, and that pretty much is it for servicing and lubricating this Lionel engine. We put the tape back over here to protect these and tape back over here. You don't want to push it down too tight over the center because that's where the armature is and it needs to spin. But again, just make sure everything spins freely. No issues. Take out any little hairs that you see. Now we're going to move on to another common problem with these things, and this is the traction wheels. As you can see with this one, it's all worn out. So all we're gonna do is if you can, flip your wheel, if it's not too brittle, and throw it on that brand new side there. And all we're gonna do is slide this traction wheel right back over here and get it on there. And we should have traction on the track again.